Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to the Afterparty. This one's hosted by Amanda, guys. Don't worry. There's not another McGarry waiting in the wings.
I was ready for a McGarry.
Too bad. This isn't a video podcast with a multi-million-dollar advance paid by Spotify,
That's
a
fair.
Swedish company trying to maximize its shareholder returns in the U.S. multimedia market.
Hey, I just wanted to come in. I'm Bill Offerson, the U.S. head of podcasting and talk stuff at Spotify, and I've acquired Join the Party from underneath you, and Sunchoke McGarry is now the host.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why you can see that I am simultaneously live streaming myself. It's for safety, but also like for my contract. Because when I simulcast on multiple platforms, I can eke more advertising money. Yes, stop looking at me. I have to maintain eye contact with the camera. I have to make lots of ad money from video podcasting and vertical video, which is definitely not a trend that is going to disappear pretty soon.
So, as the head of talk, I just need to figure out how Brandon and Julia fit in here. I've murdered Eric. He's gone.
Okay.
It was just easier. He talked too
fair.
much. And he came at me with a foam sword that I thought was a real sword, so he's gone. So, which of you are going to do pranks and which of you are going to do sex advice?
Me, sex advice.
Okay.
Famously. I just came back from sucking dick, as we all know.
Yeah, I'm not going to call this podcast PG-13 anymore. It's not.
No, it's not.
I don't think it is.
It's recommended for mature teens and over.
This will free us up more to make more jokes that don't get cut.
You know?
This
Yeah.
is good.
I don't cut jokes.
I meant, no, in your minds, Brandon.
the fuck
no,
cut.
no, pre-cut in your brain.
Eric, don't say
I see,
pre-cut
I
on
see.
this version for the party.
I'm doing sex pranks, Eric. Thank you.
Oh, you're doing
Sex
sex pranks.
pranks,
Good,
got
good,
it.
good, good.
Oh, what are those? Can you give me like 2 to 3 examples?
I could, but then I would have to make this the X cut.
It's proprietary. Hey,
I'm
it's
the
Bill.
editor this time, baby. We're keeping it all in.
It's Bill Stofferson again. We're gonna discuss this at corporate for 6 months. We're shutting it down.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
That's fair.
Bill,
That's fair.
which of your 19 houses are you recording from today?
We're gonna do the one that I have on the moon.
Oh, good.
Cool.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I'm doing really well with the current government situation. By the way.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the question part of the after party. How fun was this one-shot derby? Am I right?
Oh,
So good.
It was very good.
I missed it. I think that's why I said I thought
You
this was
missed
a year-
it?
No.
I'm pretty sure you were
no,
there.
I missed. Shut up. I think that's why I said that we did this last year, because it feels so resonant and so much fun that we had done it in the past. It's like, oh yeah, we do this every year. No, we don't. No, we don't. But it felt like it.
I wish.
Yeah, somehow it was in January 2023, making this our biannual or every other year one-shot derby cycle.
Yeah.
Like cicadas.
Like the Olympics. That's not how often the Olympics happen. Never mind.
It's okay, Julia. I said like cicadas, so we were both
Yeah.
wrong.
If you divide the cicada mating cycle by pi, you get the one-shot derby cycle.
Wow.
That's
Oh.
pretty close. That's Brennan.
Actually,
it's pretty
not
close.
wrong.
14159. No, it's 5.4.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Dividing the cicada cycle by pi feels like a line from National Treasure 3.
You're exactly right, Eric. You're exactly right. Speaking of Nicolas Cage asking great questions, lots of people want to know, and I assume Nick Cage is in that group, how do we choose one-shots? How did this particular lineup come together?
Eric.
Oh, me?
Oh, you?
chose them.
Oh, me. That's right. I did pick them. So we had a few different iterations of this question. One of which was something like, how do I pick tabletop RPGs for my table when I'm doing one-shots? And I need to recommend to you, do GM-less games. The main thing that stands in the way of people enjoying themselves at tabletop RPG tables, and I think one of the largest problems of the D&D-ification of everything, D&D saying they're the biggest and best role-playing game and so many people believing it, is that so much onus goes on prep. And as someone who is now teaching again, man, prepping stuff is hard and sucks. Like, it is really difficult to set something up that you then show to someone else. It is rewarding, but it's definitely like a barrier for work, especially when you are doing something else for the majority of your life, because we're working, we have jobs. So doing GM-less games is actually a lot more like running a board game, like one of those board games that runs itself or like has a campaign mode, or is cooperative. Reminds me of like playing together with Betrayal on the House of the Hill, where you just need to learn the rules together, and it's all of you doing a collaborative project as dictated by the rules.
Yeah.
So I'm incredibly attracted to one.
Your wife.
I was gonna say me. I almost got in to say me. That's how you know we're married to both of us, Eric.
Exactly.
Oh, right, my work wife and my wife. That's right.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And Julia lives in the apartment over the garage.
Yes, I do. The frog.
The frog. So I'm incredibly attracted to GM-less games, also because I professionally do this, so I feel the weight of how much goes into prepping and doing a good job, and the expectations of doing a good job. The other clarifying thing for this is that this needs to be easy for all of us to learn. I have to learn it first, and then everyone else learns it. So that disqualified at least 2 very popular tabletop RPGs because I just thought there was too much going on.
Name them.
I won't. But also it has to have good character creation. Like it has to have full character creation. So there's some lighter games like one-pagers. If you remember last year when we did the Brontes one, I had to build out character creation because I enjoyed the mechanics so much. So if you're not explicitly jonesing for a character creation piece, feel free to run those one-shots because then again, like you all kind of figure it out together, you learn together, and if someone is running the game, they can just go off for 15 minutes and figure out something silly and then come back.
So once you got the set of potential TTRPGs, what was your deciding coolness factor?
I am someone who is pretty online about this stuff. I subscribe to Rascal. Everyone subscribe to Rascal if you want tabletop RPG journalism. I'm on top of a lot of like the new hot critical darling games right now. So I'm like, oh, I've considered a lot of this. I've heard of these. Are we thinking about them? Whatever. Also, I've played a bunch of games before. Last One Shot Derby, we played Inspectors, which is a game that me and Amanda and Julia and Jake played over the pandemic. So I'm like, oh, we should play this. This was so much fun. So I was weeding through a lot of that stuff, and I ended up buying a few games that we didn't end up doing, but I'm like, all right, I'll give you $10. It's fine. And now I have a drive-through RPG account. Man, that website sucks. If I hate it so much, put your games on itch. It is so much easier to use. Man, drive-through RPG sucks so much. So I was like, oh, these are some games I definitely want to do. I definitely want to give Fiasco another crack. While that happened, I was writing true crime podcast game. So I'm like, oh, let's do this at the same time. I had known about Brindlewood Bay. It's kind of a critical darling right now. So I'm like, oh, I definitely want to check that out. It gave me an excuse to buy it and read it, which was really nice. And then Julia really wanted to do a Weird West game. So it was nice, like, trying to figure out by genre what could be done in the constraints of the one-shot derby. And that's why we settled on the great train robbery. And I guess we just all talked about how Christ has influenced our life for a little while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I specifically wanted to call this out because Violet on Discord said that when searching for one-shots, I just find similar games that are all revolving around classic fantasy D&D.
Yeah.
And when I said I wanted to do a Weird West, I found a great Tumblr that I think is very useful for finding tabletop RPGs of specific genres or types. That's called There's a TTRPG for that.tumblr.com.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it allows you to be like, okay, I want to search like all games that are Westerns. And then that made it a lot easier for me to like come to you, Eric, with like 2 or 3 options being like, are any of these good? Please, Papa, may we play a Weird West?
No, I think that's totally fair. You just need to be prepared to dig into it a lot. Because there was one that was like super crunchy and you needed to know the Savage World system in order to play it. And that's just like where tabletop RPGs are right now. It's not like video games where they can walk you through a tutorial. There are a lot of games that need to know like the base super crunchy system to get there. And also a lot of games are kind of amateurish, especially on itch. You like have to sift through good ones or bad ones to figure out what you're looking for. And eventually we settled on this. So yeah, feel free to buy stuff. I mean, even if it's not good, you're giving a creator like $5 or $10. So don't be afraid to like try out a bunch of games and put a bunch in your pocket for later.
Yeah, dude.
So where does the United States rationing because of the war effort come into your choice? Is that part of it? Or
No, remember when we did the original One Shot Derby, when I was thinking about it, Derby was like, had that Americana in my head, and then Amanda decided to be Scout McGarry from the first One Shot Derby.
Right.
You
Yeah.
may
so
remember here in the 21st century that I am not old enough to drink, but I am old enough to illegally buy cocaine. So as a Generation Z / Alpha cuspy baby, I can tell you that the government would never subsidize art.
I was going to ask you, Sunchoke, whether or not you live stream you doing your lines of coke for safety reasons.
No, that's putting evidence online for the cops.
Yeah, that seems like something you would stupidly do.
Yeah.
I would never.
You have Narcan on you, right? We're good with that? That's all good?
I am
don't think Narcan
definitely
works for a coke.
trained in peer interventions from me and others.
Yeah.
I'm talking about if it's fentanyl-laced, Brandon.
Oh, fair.
Which is the thing you need the most.
Yeah, that's
Amanda, is Sunchoke inspired by that AI generated band that only does the girly songs that's all about girl bossing and doing lines of coke? Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about. It's not AI generated. It's someone making that song.
I know, but the voice but the voices are, it's like an AI voiced band.
Like the gorillas kind of thing.
Yeah, similar to Gorillas. Our friend group was like so obsessed with it. It's so funny.
I think that like a root vegetable, like the sunchoke itself, Sunchoke McGarry has been like growing within me like a tuber, like a rhizome for years. And note, I said tuber, not tumor. Those are very, very different things.
Yes.
And just the sort of like outcome of girlies and TikTok and the VIP girlies who review restaurants on TikTok and yell about like how mid the pasta is at Carbone. Also like just true crime podcasting and absolutely the 10 drunk cigarettes, like, you know, girly pop of it all.
The song I'm referring to is called 10 Drunk Cigarettes by Girly Girl Productions. That is a seemingly quote from the article I'm reading on Mashable. Quote, AI assisted ditty about all the things a girl needs more than a man. It's so funny.
It literally says,
listen to
yes,
this.
I've seen the clips of this.
Yeah, it's
girls
incredible.
don't need men. Girls need 10 drunk cigarettes and several lines of coke.
4 more lines of coke.
Yeah. I
Good.
don't think you should do drugs. I don't think you should start smoking if you haven't started smoking. Also vaping. That's also bad. It's not better. However, Sunchoke McGarry has a sort of nihilistic attitude that she is not going to see 40, so she might as well enjoy her way down.
Yeah. Sunchoke has real, I'm going to take all of the upwards mobility that my grandparents made and just waste it.
Yeah.
Just run it into the ground.
I think after the war, the McGarrys got real deep into oil fields, and so they're oil rich, which is why they're from Texas.
Right. That makes sense.
Got
Yeah.
it.
So, did anyone else have questions? Or?
Yes.
I don't think so. I think it's just about the
Nope.
Sunchoke
Checks watch.
lore at this
15
point.
minutes in, we're just vaping and chilling.
No vaping.
No vaping. No vaping. L. Kenzie asked specifically, you know, as someone who's overwhelmed by TTRPGs and wants to try new things and also support small creators, like L really wanted this advice. What I'm hearing is that like it is normal to be overwhelmed. It is normal to try a bunch of stuff before you find one that you like. And it's normal to get recommendations from friends, from trusted sources, and from places like rascal.news, which is a wonderful worker-owned actual play and TTRPG journalism outlet.
Yeah, just put the genre you're looking for or the type of thing you're looking for into itch.io, and just look around and see if there's something that fun that you run into. I think that there's also something worthwhile of trying to check out these podcasts where game designers go and talk about their game, because then it's like if they could talk intelligently about what they're trying to do as a artist and as a creator, you might think that this isn't just going to be like spending $7 on a Word document, which always bums me out.
Is there a good podcast you'd recommend that does that?
Yeah, buy everything I make at the Join the Party merch store.
Look at shows Eric's been on and listen to those. And no, also another plug for your friendly local game store. You can always go in, ask the employees, take a look at the zines and games that they have there, and at least just page through and see if you like it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, folks, more questions. Ricky Yana says, hey, loved the Derby last cycle and will definitely keep re-listening to it all year through. Do you ever play the systems that aren't chosen by the audience in your free time? If yes, do you use the characters you've already made?
Oh, interesting. I don't think I've played in our free time any of the games. I'd like to do Brindlewood Bay Like, if we don't do that as the one shot for the one shot derby, I am like actually very interested in buying the physical copy of it and like playing it at home or something.
It's really cool for sure.
Fun fact, when you buy the physical copy, it does come with an old lady that you get to take home.
Oh,
So,
amazing.
yeah,
Aw.
she makes you cookies.
I hope she doesn't feud with my grandma Joyce.
Or my grandma Joyce.
Or my fictional grandma Joyce.
I thought your grandma's name was Melon.
Oh, right. That's right. Well, Julia, you're too busy playing 12-hour board games to fit this into your life.
Not anymore, man. I can't do that anymore.
God,
Simply can't
if you
do
could
it.
make some time for me to play one Twilight Imperium, let me know.
I don't know, man. I think I'm done with it. Jake and I got into a huge argument the last time I played it, and I swore off of it.
I agree with you.
Whoa.
Jake needs to take a 12-hour endeavor more seriously.
Yes,
I'm on
yes,
your
he
side.
does. Yeah.
But no, definitely open to doing it. I think it'd be very fun to do this. I'm running a board game club for my synagogue, and I think I want to start putting in TTRPGs to that too. I think one shots would be super fun. Everyone who's attended is in their 20s or 70s, so I think it would be an incredible combo.
Brindlewood
That's
Bay
fun.
with a bunch of 20-year-olds and also 70-year-olds actually would be
Yeah,
perfect.
No, it would rip.
Yeah.
Another question in from Carlos. What is your favorite character that you created, hosts, and what is your favorite game that you played? Lyle also asked this. They want to know what game we want to play, but Lyle's already voted, so we're not going to sway any votes here.
Yes.
Yeah, are the votes still open?
Oh, the votes
Votes are
are
still
very open. They're running
Okay.
until at least Friday. We'll probably
Where do you go to vote, Eric?
you can go in the episode description or jointhepartypod.com/vote. Remember, it's ranked choice voting, which we can explain to you of how at some point, because I
How
don't
that
really
works.
understand. I'm going to have to do some research of why it's good.
And where do you go to get a ticket to the Portland Live show again, Eric?
Let's join thepartypod.com/live.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I'm going to touch Brandon.
Bookshop.org.
not bookshop.org. Different.
All right, folks. Favorite game, favorite character. We're going to go rapid fire. Just say it. Brandon.
Don't start with me. I'm the least rapid fire man alive.
Julia.
Brindlewood Bay, but also Bex Beckett from the True Crime Podcast.
For me, favorite character, Sunchoke McGarry. Favorite game, probably Brindlewood Bay for the one shot. Yeah.
I am 100% going to go only for myself. True Crime Podcast game was wonderful, and I really loved all of the characters and NPCs that we created. In the whole
No, choose one.
the snake guy. The snake
Yeah.
guy who is not on the podcast was incredible.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I think Fiasco actually is probably my favorite. I just like that game system. I think it's fun. I think I like the way that it handles conflict and plot and stuff. So I think I'd like to play that. Favorite character? I want to be my preacher boy. My preacher boy from the Great Soul Train robbery.
Yeah,
That voice is so good.
I like
Yeah.
my character from the Great Soul Train robbery too, and I also really like how Fiasco works. That's why I keep putting Fiasco in. It's just like it's not. Fiasco is such a wonderful overarching system, and it's really about finding the playset that works best for you.
I
Yeah.
still have some feelings about the Fiasco character I made for last One Shot Derby
Mm.
because the like disgraced zoology student who is smuggling penguins is still one of the funniest like things I've ever thought of, and I'm still like, what would she be like if I was playing her now? What's
So
up with
lit.
her?
So
I don't remember any of the other games we played, obviously except the one we did play, and that Fiasco setting.
For sure. Well, here's a question I have for all four of us. How have you enjoyed being able to create characters so willy and nilly? I think there's something about, the Dungeons and Dragons hegemony, which is slowly crumbling because they haven't really juiced it and they're squeezing everything for it as worth. It is very hard making a Dungeons and Dragons character. Like, if you zoom out of Pete, the fact that you have to play Dungeons and Dragons, it is incredibly difficult. It is so hard. You need someone usually to hold your hand while you're doing it. And you need 5,000 subscriptions to D&D Beyond to do it online. How have you enjoyed like this lighter version of making so many characters in a short amount of time?
I think playing a bunch of different games and the character creations for those really highlights which games feature like substance over like form, I guess.
Sure.
In the sense that I think I know way more about the character I made for Brindlewood Bay than I do about the character that I made for Great Soul Train Robbery,
Sure.
right? You know, because some of them ask you to really think about your past and how that shaped you as a character in the present. And then some of them are just like, what's your vibe? What's going on here? What's your trope? You know? And I think that's a really interesting thing. And I prefer games where I'm like, yeah, I know a lot of my backstory. I know the vibe. I know how I got here. And that's going to inform the way that I play this character moving on into the future.
I mean, I feel incredibly influenced by that, picking games for the one-shot derby.
Mhm.
I'm like, if you should have a session 0.
Yeah.
And if it's built into the game, even better, where everyone introduces their characters and maybe you do a world building game. Where Brindlewood Bay, you're supposed to do all that stuff together. And also for a lot of PBTA games that have playbooks, you have this sort of like ceremony of making your characters and sharing them together.
Yeah.
And then you do like a little bit of gameplay to get them in. And like, I really love that. And I think that's a very modern sensibility for where we are in 2025 with tabletop RPGs.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. The next characters I make are going to be named Willie and Nilly.
That's really good.
They're twins.
Brandon's playing twins in Campaign 4.
I wish. Yeah, I agree with all of that. I have a ton of fun playing these character creation games because they don't matter, right? They have no consequences, and I love hearing what y'all come up with, like as a passive listener. But I do think I prefer, if I'm actually making a character that I'm going to play, like I think I prefer taking some time to think about it, like, and not have the game sort of shoehorn me into through random chance or through like a table that I choose from, whatever it is, into a thing. Obviously, I like some prompts, but I think I like the way that PBTA games do it, where like, yeah, you can sort of make a character, you make like 95% of it, and then yeah, what you were describing, like the last 5% is how you integrate it within the web of the game. That's really nice.
I also want to echo that I hate rolling on tables to tell me what my character is. It drives me crazy. I'm like, let me choose. I also want to say that like I think that Brandon most thoughtfully puts his characters together and puts his whole Grugle into what he's doing in that way.
Don't ever say that again.
That's one word you can't say on TikTok.
That's one of the 8 swears now that I've upped it. 7 swears you can't say on TV.
Like you don't need the prompting that I think some people do to like remember to have a creative idea. And I think almost
Sure.
that proves the rule of why it's necessary. So I find that interesting.
On the other hand, I absolutely love rolling on a table. I find it so structuring. I really like to have the wild character bits sort of filling in the gaps of the scaffolding that the game provides me. I would really love, I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but like a sort of craft night or something where you like keep passing around a craft, or like somebody starts a thing and then you like pass it to your left or your right.
That's fun.
I find that so much more fun than starting from a blank piece of paper, because I get sort of overwhelmed with the vast canvas of choice in front of me. So especially something like the Great Soul Train Robbery, where, I get to select a couple important motivators or background, details, and then fill in the person that embodies all those things, somehow feels like far more freeing to just my particular sensibility than something like D&D, where it's like, okay, you have, these skill sets, basically figure the rest out. And I'm like, I don't know where to start.
Yeah, I think I also like rolling because for a completely different reason, in that I like the challenge of making things that don't necessarily make sense together.
I thought you were going to say like a challenge of rolling dice.
Yeah, I love it's hard,
They're heavy. They're very
heavy. I have one of those. Have you seen the guy who has like a exercise ball D20 that he uses?
Oh my God.
And he rolls it until he rolls a 20, and that's his
That's great.
workout.
Incredible.
Yeah. But no, I like the kind of challenge of being like, okay, I didn't pick this for myself, but how does this make sense? How can I make this make sense and put these things together? And especially with something like the one-shot derby, where you kind of get to flex those character creation muscles, that is a fun little challenge that I very much enjoy biannually.
Yeah, and you're really good at that.
Oh, thank you.
The connective tissue, putting those things together. So
Thanks.
that's why I like hearing you make characters, because I get to sit back and be like, dang, that's good.
Thanks.
Complimenting your co-hosts is really bad for engagement. You gotta stop.
Julia, let's get into a fight, quick.
Fuck you, Brandon.
That's much better.
I mean, I think that we've seen more than anything that these types of imagination games and prompts work incredibly well for Amanda.
Yeah.
Amanda has really come into her own with coming up with these incredibly wild characters, especially in one-shots that we've run, starting with Dr. Bertha Bones, but also the other stuff that you've done in one-shots. It's very impressive.
Yeah,
Well,
I think I said in one of the episodes, watching Amanda have a Dr. Bertha Bones moment in real time is truly a marvel.
Wow.
I'm gonna start calling that Bertha to Bones.
Ooh, Bertha to Bones.
Bertha to
Yes,
Bones.
Brandon.
That's true.
I do have a whole section of questions about the McGarrys and their lore, but I am going to save that for the end.
That should be the end, yeah.
Yeah. First, though, I'm going to pop on back into the kitchen and get us some more random roll on a table, and that's the seltzer you're going to drink today. What flavor is it?
delicious.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Be right back. Hey everybody, it's Amanda. By the way, if you become a patron and you would like me to do a mid-roll in the voice of your favorite character that I've played in the One-Shot Derby, I'll just do that for you. I didn't run this by the rest of the team, and I'm pretty sure the only person listening to this mid-roll is going to be Julia editing it. So Julia, if you agree with me, give me a little sound effect. All right. So if you want your next mid-roll to be read by Dr. Bertha Bones or Scout McGarry, and you are a new or existing patron, send us a message, okay? Thank you and welcome, by the way, to those who have just joined the Patreon. I am excited for you to enjoy the full one shot of the Winning Derby game when it is out. Thank you to Kira, Bettany L, Shaughnessy, L. Kenzie, Connor J, Stephanie, and Diana, who upgraded their pledge. Remember, you can always have an annual membership. If submitting and kind of committing to something monthly it doesn't work for you, totally cool. You can join for a full year of Patreon support at a discount, by the way, at patreon.com/jointhepartypod. You get bi-weekly party planning, you get ad-free episodes, you get Discord access, you even have early access to new episodes, including the first episode of Camp-Paign for y'all, a whole day before anyone else at patreon.com/jointhepartypod. Folks, I am about to start packing for our Portland live show. This is your final reminder to come to the live show or tell your friends who are in Portland, Oregon, or the Pacific Northwest to go. Get your very affordable tickets for a double-header live show of Spirits and Join the Party at jointhepartypod.com/live. You don't need to know anything about our podcasts or D&D or mythology to enjoy. If you like us and our vibe, come hang out with us IRL or tell your friends to do it. I am gonna have so much fun. jointhepartypod.com/live. Woo, 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 woo. Oh, what's that? There's a new Multitude member podcast. Hey, remember when I say like there's so much happening at Multitude these days? There's always so much happening. And for the last couple of months, we've been working hard to get This Guy Sucked out into the universe. This is a history podcast for haters by haters, where historian Dr. Claire Aubin and a new expert every week pull back the scholarly curtain on some of the world's biggest bummers. No dead person is safe, and the show's guests prove that the best part of understanding the past is criticizing it. There are new episodes every Thursday wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, the multi-crew have already listened to the first couple episodes of the show, but you are going to be able to listen to the first two episodes on Thursday, March 20th when it comes out. From Charlemagne to Carl Schmidt, every episode gives listeners all the ammo they need to win dinner table arguments over why history's main characters are actually kind of the worst. So good, y'all. The show, it's everything. Look at the art, subscribe. You're going to love Dr. Aubin and all of the guests that she finds. Listen to This Guy Sucked. We are sponsored this week by Audio Maverick, a new 9-part documentary podcast about one of the most visionary figures in radio, Hyman Brown. You can explore the golden age of radio through the life of this famous New Yorker, whose programs brought millions of families around their radios each night. Now, that's not an experience I had growing up, but it is one that my grandma and to a lesser extent my aunts and uncles did. And so being able to hear real excerpts of the golden age of audio shows and just understand what made this such a phenomenon content is really cool. Audio Maverick features archival audio and contemporary interviews with media scholars and podcasters. You can learn about the birth of radio, the height of radio drama, and discussions with the new generation of podcasting audio mavericks that Brown inspired. So subscribe to Audio Maverick in your podcast app now. That's Audio Maverick in your podcast app today. And now, let's get back to the Derby. And we're back. Julia, you rolled a 4. Here it is.
What is it?
What flavor do you take a sip? What flavor do you think?
Passion fruit?
It's finger lime.
Oh.
Right? Pretty
I
cool.
always wanted one of those in real life.
Yeah.
Mine tastes like motor oil. Is that good?
Brandon, you might be having a stroke. Let's go through the checklist. How is your left side feeling?
Super empowered.
Nice.
I think I have super strength on my left side.
Wild.
Mine tastes like I described what a pomegranate was to the seltzer, but the seltzer does not have ears or a brain. So it kind of just like put together the best possible thing it could do.
Interesting.
That's the La Croix promise. All right, folks, we have some great questions here about each of our separate episodes in those worlds, starting with one that I know Julia is going to have an answer to. Ricky wants to know, what's your favorite Hadestown song, Julia?
Oh, I really love the chants, in particularly the final chant, not from the Broadway version because they cut all the good shit out of it.
I wanted to
Say
talk
it again.
about this.
Say it again.
Specifically.
But rather,
Sorry, I'll go get some coffee while you guys.
I have a lot of feelings about the Broadway adaptation from the original New York Theater Workshop version. It really feels like they dumbed it down for Broadway audiences because they're like, people don't know things. I'm like, people can follow along. It's okay. You know?
Julia, the wall is a sort of like direct metaphor for immigration. In case that
interesting.
Fun fact, it wasn't. I looked because when I saw it, I was like, this is so fucking like blatant and boring to be like the wall. And I looked it up, and there's multiple interviews where I forgot the name, but the creator
Aeneas
was
Mitchell.
like, no, that was just it just happened.
Yeah, who's just like absolutely vibing.
Yeah, it happened like she wrote this in 2000.
Long time ago.
Yeah, 6 or something like that. So
yeah.
The thing I remember the most about Hadestown was, Amanda had told me that she had seen it already, and I'd listened to it. And I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. I think it's going to be a good musical. But it was hard for me to enjoy it because we were in the balcony and we were seeing it with Amanda's sibling, and
I thought you were like, because we were in the balcony and the seats sucked.
No, we were in the balcony, and we were in the balcony, and it was relatively small. The balcony was only like 20 people. So
were you in a box seat, Eric?
No, we were in the rear mezzanine, and there were we were sitting in the front, and there were maybe like 6 or 7 rows behind us, but like it was tiered mezzanine.
It felt like a box.
So it was very small.
The way that the actual seats, there was no free shrimp, Brandon. It was
there
just
was no
the
sandwiches.
Seats.
Yeah.
We also saw it in previews, so it was mad cheap.
And every single person around me was crying, screaming how emotional they were into it the entérior time. And I'm just like, this is good, but it's almost like they were making me a contrarian as I was watching.
Eric leaned over and he's like, is it okay that I'm not sobbing? I'm like, yeah, I think it is.
I will say I saw it by myself after Amanda recommended it to me. And I sat the original production was kind of like theater in the round style. And I sat in like the front row center by myself. And I think several of the actors looked at me concerned for the last 20 minutes of that play because I did sob through the last 20 minutes of it.
Julia, having ushered it, that's very normal. But yeah, I was a volunteer usher, a thing I did a lot before the pandemic, and called Julia illegally at intermission on the phone I wasn't supposed to have on me and said, buy a ticket right now, and then hung up.
Yeah, it was really good.
Julie, did you say what song you liked? I'm sorry, did I miss it?
It's Chant 2 from the original New York Theater Workshop version.
Got it.
Because
it
has
banger.
One of my favorite, it's just, the whole thing is there's these beautiful moments that are then reflected between the two couples of the show in order to kind of put them in conflict with each other and also reflect each other. And the chant 2 has a beautiful line from Persephone that gets cut in the Broadway version, and it drives me crazy because it really reflects, oh god, anyway, I could go on, I could write a whole fucking article about this.
Would you say, Julia, that it's very akin to them cutting the song from the Muppet Christmas Carol that makes the entire thing make sense at the end?
That's true. Brandon, you're 100% correct.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
They added it back in on Disney Plus.
Persephone is the best character in the Broadway one. Like, they still can, because, like, everyone else is such an archetype. Like, Orpheus is like, himbo. Let's give the Tumblr kids what they want, himbo. And then...
Sorry, Orpheus is the main guitar guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As himbo?
Mhm.
Yeah.
What version did you see?
Well-
That man was the skinniest piece of shit that I could knock over in the playground I've ever seen.
You know, like himbo twink. You know, the himbo twink to the
Yeah.
Himbo twink.
continuum.
Golden
Yeah.
retriever energy.
Yeah. Like, we've been doing romantasy tropes on the Patreon with party planning, and I feel like I'm seeing the trope tags right there.
I love himbo twink. That's really good.
That was another terrible change they made from the off-Broadway to Broadway version, was Orpheus was supposed to be like a young Elvis type, like extremely charming,
Oh, that's cool.
extremely gifted.
That's much better.
Yeah, he was like a troubadour.
And then they literally changed it where they said in interviews they decided to make Orpheus touched by the gods.
Oh, my God.
And the way they decided to interpret that is, in my opinion, offensive.
Yeah, in the way that's like a euphemism they used in the 18th century, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I 100% do that. It's like
Mhm.
they gave all of the charisma. It's like, no, only two actors can have charisma. It's Hermes and Persephone,
Mhm.
which is fine because both of those parts are great. And the actors, if I remember correctly, who did it, especially the actor who played Hermes, I think he got nominated.
Yeah,
he was
he's
incredible.
had like a whole third act to his career off of Hadestown. It's been incredible.
Yeah, Andre
DeShields?
DeShields.
Yeah,
Andre DeShields.
love that dude. He was so good, but I definitely see it being put together in that way. Yeah.
That's great content where you tell TikTok that the thing they love is actually not that good and that they are missing out on the best parts of what they had because they were not in their 20s in the 2010s. So
Shit.
excellent
I
job.
would do well on
I
TikTok.
see you getting better as we go on, and that's really important.
The live original cast recording is available on Spotify. You can listen to it and hear the differences.
Excellent plug. Spotify does electric shock me if I don't mention Spotify twice per episode. So thanks.
Would it be good if I were like a good TikTok if I were like, Hadestown, more like boring town, check out next to normal instead, idiot?
Yes, but 4 years ago. Yeah. Incredible.
Oh, Jesus.
No notes, and now I'm feeling a little bit threatened about my job and profession in this room. So Brandon, take it down a notch.
Amanda, every time you say that, I feel like you're about to recommend to me a pho spot everyone already knows about.
Damn.
You recommend Joe's Pizza?
The best pizza in the entire city is exactly where you think it is.
Damn. Called
In
out.
the subway with the rat.
It's already been eaten by a rat, idiot. Move to Queens. Okay. So, some questions about Brindlewood Bay in particular. Not a Teen Witch says, I think Amanda has to know that I used to work at Goodwill with a very old woman named Joyce Lemon, whose nickname was Juicy.
That's really good.
Incredible.
Amanda, if we play Brindlewood Bay, your character's nickname has to be Juicy.
Absolutely. But Julia, great segue into Ricky's question. If you had to choose, how would you want your murder maven to die? And as a reminder, this is because one of us would have to run the game if and when we play Brindlewood Bay.
I think, like fun little human sacrifice style covered like in candles and whatnot in a circle. That's how I'd go.
Yeah, I mean, mine's easy. It's in the throes of ecstasy, we have a heart attack.
Sure. I mean,
Fair. Not a mystery that the people have to solve though.
Julia, because no one likes women, the symptoms of a woman having a heart attack are very hard to figure
unknowable.
out.
Ungoogleable.
Unknowable.
Does it involve motor oil? Do you taste
It
motor
does.
oil? I think I planned mine almost to be a hook for like I kind of assumed I would be running Brittle Wood Bay. Maybe not necessarily, but I planned that for myself if I had to. Was that there would be at least be suspicion on the serial killer who they see in jail all of the time. Some sort of that would be like the main hook.
Cool.
I think it'd be fun for Joyce to be like accidentally stumble across like a clue or a lead, or like for once try to like pursue something on her own because she's sort of like in an opportunity where it could help the other mavens, and then ends up getting knocked out by a killer, but that death ends up being helpful in some way to the broader mystery.
Yeah.
That's what we can all hope for, is that our death is somehow helpful to a mystery that our loved ones are going to be solved.
I'm gonna write. While I'm dying, I'm gonna write a series of numbers down, and y'all are just gonna have to figure it out. It's probably the Dewey Decimal System. I hope you remember this.
So
Ooh,
fucked up,
fun.
Eric. If you wrote down random numbers,
No, it
and
wouldn't
were
be
like,
random. I would set up.
but
I would spend most of my 80s setting up a series of clues.
Cool.
That's just fun, but it would be okay. You do that. I'll write down a series of random numbers just to fuck.
Yeah, Brandon, you
Man.
forgot that you were you and I was me. You thought it was the opposite again.
I think once you turn 80, you should start setting up an ARG for your loved ones to solve after your death.
Yeah,
Exactly. And then
yeah.
put in your last will and testament sort of like a kickoff event. Maybe it's on your tombstone, maybe it's at your funeral, maybe it's, whatever, where there's like either, QR code, a clue, a single red rose that is not accounted for. You got to kick off the mystery somehow.
And at the end, you find my body.
I think that's the only way, too, that anyone can get any of the inheritance that I'm giving them.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Julia, we're millennials. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's fair.
I hope that YouTube, like the YouTube creator economy, just sort of ages with us, and by the time we're 80, they're like, I made an ARG for my grandkids.
It's my last will and testament.
Just making the pog face as an 80-year-old.
Your jaw falls off.
Not wrong. Glass Cat Owl says, Brandon's Brindlewood character would definitely have a selection of the works of a person I went to art school with IRL. She makes
Wow.
blown glass penises and vagina bowls, which take a surprising amount of effort and skill to make blown glass look skin-like, by the way. Her
Oh,
works
wow.
are
Oh,
technically
yeah.
incredibly impressive. I was in first year when she was graduating, and I remember helping her wrap up her pieces toward the end of the year. The one time we did meet, she was crying because her favorite vagina had broken.
No.
I hate it when my favorite vagina breaks.
Me too.
I want to go back to Camp-Paign 2, where everyone started sending me mugs that had boobs on it.
Uh-huh.
Of like I didn't know that already existed. Like I'm so glad you found these and sent them to me, but I made it up because I knew they existed. So I'm glad that the Cat Owl has a master artist reinforcing the male and female primary and secondary genitalia craftsmanship that I've been looking for.
Eric, huge fan of boobies. He knows everything about them.
It's
Mhm.
more
All
like
the different types.
we live in Brooklyn and his wife's bisexual. And so like the just every fact about our life together adds up to we see boob pottery at least once a week.
That's true.
Like at least once a week.
Confirmed.
A friend's house, a cafe, like just on the street for someone to pick up, like really honestly anywhere.
Free
They're
needs
just
a good
everywhere.
home, and
Right.
it's a mug. It's an oversized mug where one boob is definitely smaller than the other.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just because it's hard to shape them on
the
on a
representation
wheel,
we
you
need.
know?
Yeah, by God.
I was gonna say, it was probably a self-pottery, which is
Yeah.
like a self-portrait. but
Do you think
pottery.
she has time to make sure each boob is exactly the same number of grams? No.
Is God the Potter? God's the Potter.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's Brandon. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Amanda and I just recorded a spirits episode where that is the case, where one of the
Huh.
gods is the potter that created humanity.
Julia, there's only one God. Thank you very much. Jesus
And his name is
Christ.
Knoom.
It's so fun to say.
And her name is Jesus Christ.
Here in Seattle, there's the Chihuly Museum because this is where he's from. And it's a great museum. You should go. But there's one room where I forget the actual. It must be like shells or something, like
Uh-oh.
the inspiration. But they're all like very technically difficult things that look beautiful, but they're all like bowls with waves, basically,
Sure.
and that's just the vagina room that every time I walk into it. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I once went to the Brooklyn Museum of Art just to look around, and they had a Georgia O'Keeffe exhibit, and it wasn't just about her, but like several O'Keeffe works were in a broader exhibit about, I think, like Coney Island, or it was some kind of like curated thing, and I like looked around the room. It was a large room, like one corner was the O'Keeffe paintings, and every person standing to my left and my right visibly a lesbian, and I was like, oh man, I love us, and I love Brooklyn, and what a time to be alive. All right, folks, another good segue into some questions around the true crime podcast game, which, Eric, weirdly, I thought that text was going to be available for free to all paid patrons at patreon.com/jointhepartypod. Is that true?
That is true. We sent it out last
Hey.
week.
Woo!
So if you want-
are you
Incredible.
sure the URL is not jointhepartypod.com/live?
No,
that's
that's
the
for
other
a
one.
different
The
thing.
other
Brandon.
one,
That's the other one.
but
That's the other
if you
one.
come to our live show in Portland on March 23rd, I can just like DM you the link. I'd be fine to do that.
Oh yeah, Eric could sign your phone.
Yeah, print out 12 pieces of paper and then I'll sign it.
People have done crazier things, Eric.
I don't think there's anything crazier than them having a printer.
Exactly.
I'm looking out for our audience. I understand our audience. Our audience will make us beautiful art, usually fiber art depicting our podcast. They cannot print out 12 pieces of paper.
It's not
I
possible.
get it. I get it.
Bento Cato's question is, the whole female podcaster bit in the true crime podcast game reminded me of this visceral awkwardness I felt when my friend got me to listen to the podcast. Now, should I say this out loud?
I'll bleep it.
I don't even know.
I've
what
never
this
heard of the show.
stands for.
My friend got me to listen to the podcast, and the male hosts talked about wiki feet for like 10 minutes while the woman host, Lucy, added some sparse, concerned comments every so often.
Not really a question. However, does make me laugh.
You're absolutely right. Thank you for sharing, though. I really wanted
Yeah.
to know that. It reminded me of, I think I said this on the Joy the Party feed at one point, that every female podcaster has had the worst trauma possible to them,
Yeah.
and they have come out the other side a renewed, beautiful, smarter, more resilient person, ready to say what they have to say on the microphone. And every male podcaster is just like, I got some bits. Do you want to hear them?
I just want to say I'm looking at the website for this podcast, and one of the segments on their show is called The Whole Report. HOLE.
Guys, they're Australian, so it's all good.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
all
No,
good.
it's probably fine.
Oh.
No, it's
yeah,
fine.
no, it's probably really funny because it's Australia.
They've
I
seen
don't know.
80% of the world, so they have a real broad sense of everything. So I think it's okay.
I mean, they start every day in tomorrow, so maybe that's fine tomorrow, and we just don't know about it.
And it's
I just hold on. I just want to say, so I'm reading their bios now too.
Great.
And the one woman on the show, it says Lucy suffers from IBS. I'm like, what? That's the first line.
Yep.
This is what I'm saying. Australians are very funny people.
They were talking about wiki feet, but then Lucy was like, "Oh no!" The entire time.
They just sound like that, guys. They just sound like that
Arnar.
naturally.
I want to shout out the folks over at Escape This Podcast that Julie and I have been on a few times, and that is like a younger person Australian thing. So it's like, it's very funny that we're always talking about a 25-year-old saying "oh no," because like they don't sound like that, and they told us that. It was very funny.
That's fair. That's fair.
Incredible.
Amanda can do it better than me.
Well, I mean, I watched several hundred hours of Bowie Jane during last summer's Big Brother, so.
Please.
Arnar.
Oh no.
Shanna Mandel wants to know, Eric, do you enjoy creating new games? What other games are bouncing around in there, like Tigger on a Sugar High, which I thought was such a charming depiction of Eric's brain?
What's bouncing around in that brain, huh?
Well, I really wanted to do True Crime Podcast game. That was the thing I wanted to do after Model Our Nations. I'm very lucky that I have a creative group that I can subject them to, or my first
True.
drafts, which is something, I mean, I've been thinking about this since I saw some of these Afterparty questions, and I'm remembering, my time writing poetry and having some of those groups in college from when I was doing on the Poetry Slam team, 3-time national college champions Poetry Slam team.
Pop, pop, pop.
And having like, the mandatory writing workshops that I had for my creative writing minor. And then like after I graduated, I didn't have people to like send poems to. So I'm like, I don't know if this is good. I just wrote it and then I don't want to edit it because I don't know who to send it to or show it to or how to make it better. So the fact that I have people to show my first drafts to or work them out and on the microphone or on Patreon has been really nice, which is why I really wanted to do the party planning where I showed you my first ideas of true crime podcast game. I also got really lucky that I got to play test it with a bunch of folks who are affiliated with Multitude, which I think is in the later question, which I'll talk about. But other games I want to talk about, I had an idea for running a tabletop RPG that I wrote up to like try to get like a Jewish artist fellowship to like use the structure of the golems legend to tell any story within that actual structure of like oppressed people has problem. The way they solve problem is by using divine material to make Guardian, and then Guardian goes too far. And just playing out those kind of 3 acts in whatever world you want to use. Very inspired by Dream Askew, Dream Apart, which Avery Alder and Benjamin Rosenbaum wrote, which does that kind of like, I call it like shtetl fantasy, where which is in like everything is illuminated. If you remember that book by Jonathan Safran Foer, where the using like the structure of Jewish folk tales from the Jewish shtetl. In that sort of fantasy realm, to tell this particular, and then using like whatever world building you do, and then playing out those particular acts. I don't know if I actually want to finish them because I really wanted to do it and have money to do it and like really pay people to like make this kind of like formalist artistic undertaking. But I ended up writing True Crime Podcast game instead.
Fair.
So if anyone out there wants to underwrite the Golem game, let us
Send
know.
Eric money.
Eric, I do want to step in here and say, as your work wife, I can answer the inspiration, like the bouncing around like Tigger on the sugar high.
Mhm.
Eric doesn't ever sit down to like, okay, I'm gonna go write an RPG now. It's like a blast from an alien spaceship.
Yeah.
Gets shot into Eric's brain, and he says, "Oh, I gotta write this down."
Yeah, I have to do it. I
Fugue
have
state.
to do it and make it as quickly as possible. There's usually a reason. I am really the kind of person who gets triggered to do it by something that's going on. And I am very lucky that Join the Party has given me opportunities to be like, I need a game to tell this story. And that's where Model Our Nations came from. And so many other games that were in the world building games, like Bro, let me tell you about that story, or whatever that was called. That was like, trying to write a tabletop RPG to achieve something that Dungeons and Dragons can't touch.
We have a mantra here at Multitude that it's good for the business when Eric is bored.
Yes,
He hates that, but it's true.
it is.
No, you're
It's
right.
either he's the Joker in creating absolutely wild shit, or he's bored and creating absolutely wild shit.
Yeah, I'm the Joker because I'm making like 10 things in 2 weeks, or I get blasted like an alien spaceship shooting a beam down on Earth, and I'm just like all my atoms get rearranged.
Yeah, while like recording a different podcast or going on a walk or cooking dinner, and then you're like, ah,
Like Danny Phantom.
so true. Very similar, Eric and Danny.
Yo, Eric Silver, he was just 14 when his parents built a really strange machine designed to see a world tabletop RPG. You gotta catch them all because Eric has to write stuff.
It's pretty good.
Fanny
Pretty good.
Dantum.
Nice.
Fanny Dantum. Is what
Fanny
it is.
Dantum?
Yes.
That sounds like an Amanda McLaughlin one-shot derby
It
character.
does.
Fanny
It
Dantum? Fanny Dantum is when we play the Victorian version of Brindlewood Bay
Yeah.
that Jason Cordova was telling me about. Amanda's playing Fanny Dantum, who is a disgraced lady who now is a PI.
A widow of means.
Oh,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, did you see the column of light that was beamed down from the alien spaceship into Eric's brain just then? Did you see it?
It's just a joke. I just know things. That's why I'm good on podcasts.
Nope, I saw the beam, Eric.
We're not playing. That's already written. Jason Cordova is taking care of a lot of this stuff for me. And I'm too busy working on Camp-Paign 4. I honestly have my hands full.
So let's zoom in on this particular beam of inspiration for a second. Katie Hume asked on Blue Sky, where, by the way, Eric keeps posting with the energy of Twitter about 7 years ago, but today on Blue Sky, so follow us at jointhepartypod.com on Blue Sky. Katie asks, loved the true crime podcast game. Where'd the inspiration to create it come from? And what is the likelihood of actually getting pocket guides of all the awesome TTRPGs Eric wrote?
Ooh.
Oh.
I mean, I definitely want to do that. The folks over at Certified Crucial are ready to make merch in 2025, so I'm ready.
They are.
I got to put together True Crime Podcast game with Bren and make it formal, so y'all can buy that soon. But then once we have it and it's all laid out, we can put that all together in one kind of super bound thing, which would be wonderful. So yeah, the inspiration just came from, I had realized it is hard for me to gauge if the things I care about have actually breached containment, like social containment. And because I was watching a bunch of Twitch streams and I saw a bunch of video games were making references to podcasts, both like true crime podcasts and entrepreneurial podcasts. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's good to know. And I really wanted to, especially with like the postmodern inspirations that I had been learning from, especially reading Brindlewood Bay. I was like, oh, I want to make a game that is inspired by or uses a genre format as a basis. And that's why I wrote True Crime Podcast game. And I was really able to shape it. I wanted everyone to die. I wanted everyone who worked on a True Crime Podcast to die. And I slowly started putting that together, and I got to play test it with Rue and with Misha and Bren, and their home game worked it out. So it was really nice being able to show that to them. And then it slowly came together of this kind of mechanic. But I also, like, because it was inspired by the one-shot derby, it was very like character creation first, and then I had to figure out what the game loop actually was to make it fun.
Mm-hmm.
Great segue into Paw Print Peyton's question, which is, I saw the peep. Brandon, you'll be glad to know that Peyton used the Brandon patented phrase peep, aka party planning episode, an exclusive podcast just for patrons at patreon.com/jointhepartypod, where Eric showed the scraps for the True Crime Podcast game. Could he talk about making it into a full TTRPG? From my perspective, Eric is one of the people who saw like the various phases of the game. The thing that changed the most was the actual game loop. Like, once you've made the characters, what happens next?
Yeah. I was really inspired by Triangle Agency, which is another really good tabletop RPG. It's very crunchy, which is why we didn't do it for the one-shot derby, but does have an interesting character creation. Very Control inspired, if y'all are interested. But where other people control NPCs that are important in your character's life that I really liked. So I was trying to fold all that together. I wanted everyone to have a different death hunting them, but it turned out that having all the same death hunting everyone on the show made it easier and better to work with and share that pool of NPCs, and it was kind of like endlessly replayable, just like Betrayal on the House of the Hill. And that's the thing that changed the most when I played with Rue and with Misha. I also kind of wanted to make the game shorter, but then Bren played it with their game group, and they were like, no, this is great. This is 3 hours.
Perfect length.
This is 3 hours, 4 hours. This is how long a tabletop RPG goes. And I'm like, okay, you're right. I spent too much time recording a podcast to remember that this is like an afternoon activity for someone in their game group. So
not just a quick hour and a half like we do here on the pod.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I really want this to be an hour long. And Brendan was like, no, you don't. And I'm like, okay, there you go. So yeah, those were the main differences going from what I had before to what I was putting together. But I'm also glad that I was able to spend a lot of time making examples for other folks and like giving people a lot. I don't remember who said it. That was like, if you're having a fantasy game, you should have a table that's like 200 slots, that if someone rolls number 195, there is a sword in the stone. And then you have to roll a 12 on a d12 to pull the sword out of the stone. And you should know what happens if someone rolls that. Not necessarily because you want it to happen or you need to know everything that happens, but that someone seeing it on the table will be excited and inspired to play your game.
Interesting.
And I think about like hiding Easter eggs like that into games at large, which is how I felt about building out so much of the different scenarios for the different deaths you could do.
I love that.
Incredible.
Hell yeah. It was also just in terms of being your collaborators on things, it was genuinely very fun for you to be like, here's my ideas, and then being able to be like, oh, I think this would be fun, or like, oh, I think like this would make sense here, or something like that.
I mean, it's like your favorite director or TV show producer is like, am I going to make something new? What would interest you? And it's like, I have a lot to say, Charlie Parsons. But instead of Survivor, it's Eric making TTRPGs that amuse us specifically. It's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is there a Survivor TTRPG? There must be.
They just released a trading card game, TCG.
Oh.
Yes, Jeff Probst and the guy the exploding kittens guy are like best friends.
Huh.
That's
isn't that
awesome.
weird?
I love that.
What
It
a,
is
What a
weird.
combo.
I like that.
Jeff Probst trusts two men to run his gamesmanship and actually gives him constructive feedback on Survivor. It is the exploding kittens guy, and it is Mike Weitz
Of the White
Mhm.
Lotus.
of the White Lotus.
Yep.
Incredible. All right, folks. We have two important segments to get to before the end of this after party. The first is perhaps the most engaging part of this whole month-long process of the one-shot derby, which is the phrase, you get what you get and you don't get upset. Now,
Jeez.
we've learned a lot about this phrase. Brandon, could you please begin by helping to voice, as the non-New Yorker in this podcast, there can only be one, what the rest of the country says, specifically Wisconsin, as voiced by N.A. Nicole.
So, well, first of all, I resent the statement that I'm not a New Yorker. I lived there for a long time.
Sorry, the non-East Coast elite?
Yes. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
better.
that's better.
Yeah, so in the Texas accent, it would be you get what you get, but you don't get upset. And that doesn't rhyme. Because it's the vowel sounds for the E's. There's two different ones technically, but I didn't know that until I moved out of Texas.
Say
So-
both of those words again in not the full phrase.
Which two words?
Get and upset.
Get upset. You get upset. GIT is get. You get upset versus get. Get upset.
So then what if you said the variant?
Wait,
Would that
Brandon's being Sunchoke McGarry here.
rhyme? No.
Get upset.
You got what you got, and you have to go to Carbone to get their incredible pasta. It's worth the 5-hour wait.
So the two words that helped me figure this out were pen and penguin.
Oh,
So
sure.
pen and pen are the same word for me. Like the writing utensil and the pokey utensil.
Yeah.
Pin
Um,
and pen, as I would say it.
Pin and pen it's kind of difficult for me to say, honestly. And then penguin or penguin, which it's wrong to say penguin, but like that was the one that helped figure it out for me in my brain.
Interesting.
So how about the variant that Nicole identifies as being common in Wisconsin and other parts of the country?
Yeah, apparently Nicole said, "Get what we get. You get what you get, and you don't throw a fit," which I don't think I've ever heard.
I have not heard
but
that one
maybe
either.
I have, and I just forgot about it. Forgot about it.
Forget also rhymes with fit and get.
Forget. Yeah.
I thought this was really funny. I went on some linguistic research for this, and I read an article that was like the surprising origins of you get what you get and you don't get upset. And it's just tied to like that part in the early 20th century where we started to recognize that children were different than small adults.
Interesting.
And
Interesting theory.
The way that they wrote it was the origins of this mantra can be traced back to the early days of childhood education and developmental psychology. It is believed that the mantra gained prominence in the mid-20th century, a time when the field of child psychology and education underwent significant evolutions. As researchers and practitioners delve deeper into understanding the cognitive and emotional development of children, they recognize the importance of instilling resilience and emotional regulation from a young age. So this is just child psychologists were like, we gotta tell these kids to fucking buck up because they're not small adults. We should get them to rhyme wherever we live.
Great.
Yeah.
Ideal.
Yeah.
I also want to give a special shout out to Minnesota because they play a specific childhood game. If I were to say the two words duck, duck, what would you say?
Goose.
Go.
Yes, and I know exactly what you're going to
Did
say.
you say go?
Yeah.
Yeah, duck, duck, goose. In Minnesota, they go duck, duck, gray duck.
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, you're
Yep.
lying to
That's
me. No,
Yep.
there's no way that's true.
Yep.
The reason why is that in Minnesota, they have a lot of Swedish or I think Netherlands immigrants, and
Duck.
that is the translation. It is duck, duck, gray duck. So they literally use the translation instead of being like, "Hey, let's make it into a different. Let's make it sound better." But they still call it duck, duck, gray duck out there. Shout out Minnesota, you're great.
Okay, so I just texted my family. So this is the interesting thing is that my family, like my generation, obviously are from Texas. My parents are from the Midwest, so we're sort of a Midwest, a weird middle ground thing.
Interesting.
And I said, complete the sentence. You get what you get, and you don't blank. And my sister so far has said, throw a fit.
Oh,
What?
Oh,
the generational differences that are happening here. Wild.
See what my mom and my brother say, but
wow. I love a Join the Party episode where we get the Grugle group chat, the Gruple chat involved.
I'm ready for one of your siblings to be like, "You get what you get," and shut up, Brandon. Shut up.
well, I didn't say it, but the first thing Jessie said was, "You get what you get, and you don't eat your boogers," is what she said. So
Hell yeah.
Brandon, you
Hell
can't
yeah.
censor Jessie. I'm sorry to say she might be vying for Seth as second funniest Grugle.
and the most funny
Your mom's
is our
first.
first patron, Tom Grugle.
No, Tom is the best Grugle. That's a very different one. Brandon's mom, respectfully, the most clownish of the Grugles, just in profession, not in like personality. Brandon remains the funniest.
thank you. I'm professionally funny. Seth is getting old, so he says dumb shit now. I don't get it.
He did briefly run the Denny's Tumblr, so that's
He did not run.
I was
the
going to say,
Denny's.
is that true?
He had Denny's as a client. He does not do social media.
Damn,
he
Amanda.
was associated with the Denny's social media campaign.
Wow.
All right, folks. This brings us to our final section of this after party, which is McGarry's and One Shot Derby Deep Lore.
Let's go.
Amanda still has some Catholic stuff in her because I could see her whipping herself like the guy from the Dan Brown novel, Silas. Like making her do 65 minutes of other bits before she could talk about Sunchoke McGarry.
I know what the people want, Eric, and I'm making them come to the end of this podcast. Our completion rate is like 98% on Multitude
That's really
Podcast
good.
as a whole. I'm not letting that go, baby.
I want you to know that that's actually very high for those
It's
of
very
you.
high for
Yeah.
for podcasts.
I feel like it's 100% because the last 2% is probably just the theme song. and
Yeah,
things,
for sure.
so-
Oh, it's 100%. Join the party listeners are great. You're all great. I love you all deeply. I'll tell that to your face.
Yeah.
Come see me in your face and I'll tell you I love you.
At jointhepartypod.com/live, where you can see us IRL in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
Leo the Lizard Queen on Blue Sky asks, does Sunchoke McGarry own horses? If so, do they follow the naming conventions of buttons and gloves? Before anyone answers, there is a correct answer. There is a correct answer.
Okay.
In my brain, I haven't said it yet. I want to know what each of you thinks.
I'm
Okay.
going off my world building I've already used, which is that at some point, maybe when she was 11, Sunchoke had a horse that was named in the naming conventions of buttons and gloves, but they get to sell all of it because Sunchoke McGarry's dad is terrible with money and ran the business into the ground.
And what was the horse's name?
I was going to say a horse named Glue is what I was thinking of.
Jeez. I'm going to say that Sunchoke McGarry is actually a national equestrian champion.
Okay.
Sure.
Much like the boss's daughter, who is an Olympic silver medalist. And the horse's name Boots.
Boots is good. Boots is really good. I think I'm with Julia that the horse's name was Boots, but then they had to sell boots and gloves and buttons.
Question for you guys. When I say thoroughbred, what does that mean? What does that refer to?
Like,
It's a very it's a horse that's been bred to be good at being a horse.
Racing
Okay, Eric?
specifically.
yeah, for horse racing and for, I was going to say the horse husbandry. I know there is a lot of money in getting horses that will win the Triple Crown horse races and stuff.
Thoroughbred is a breed.
Oh, really?
Motherfuckers. It's both. We use it for both now.
okay.
Oh,
Fair.
fair. Fair.
But I did want to say that I thought that Buttons it was involved in some way with siring American Pharaoh.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Sure. Brandon, what do you think the horse is named?
Glue.
Unfortunately, guys, you're all wrong. The horse's name was Zipper, just because that's a
that's
funny
really
name for
good,
a horse.
actually.
Also, just want to shout out a friend of the show and a person who helped make our metadata correct, Ivan Pliss, who did come through and tell me how to say glue horses in Russian.
Лошади на клей.
So the more you know.
There we
God,
go.
I thought coming up with the names for the minor league hockey teams was so fun. I forgot about that from the Murderous. That was really good. I know I was indulging myself with that, but I enjoyed that.
Normally, I don't make a habit of naming jokes we missed on the podcast because that can be a slippery slope, and like it's fun for you guys, but when we get like 30 of them, it's like and then I don't want to make you feel bad for like reaching out to us, etc. Again, you're the best audience in the world. I just do, because it's about me, want to say that The Sky Was No Help said Amanda said she wanted a traditionally male nickname, and Manny is right there. And Sky, that gave me a frisson of gender pleasure that I have not felt in a long time since I bought knockoff Doc Martens, actually. So thank you, Manny. I will take.
They are not knockoff Doc Martens. They are like in a Puma Adidas situation, the company that split off from Doc Martens that are not Doc Martens.
They're excellent.
Yes, you told me about this, Amanda.
Solaver. Yes, they're very good.
Manny just makes me think of Manaphy from the Pokemon Manaphy.
Brandon, we've been playing too much trading card game.
You have. Also, the One Shot Derby has impact in the real world, folks. I just want to shout out this message from C, who wrote, I dreamt that I went hiking with the Join the Party crew. When we came down from the hike,
I'm sorry.
we met Julia Louis-Dreyfus and had some red berry smoothies from her Renaissance Fair stand? Question mark.
Yeah.
Incredible. We all called her Tia because she was Eric's aunt, and also all of you spoke Spanish as your first language.
I wish.
Brandon said he didn't like mini marshmallows, and
How
our
dare
Julia said that he was crazy for saying that.
True.
Accurate.
Actually, honestly, it would be reversed. I'm not a huge mini marshmallow fan.
You're crazy, Julia.
This whole time, Amanda was just enjoying her smoothie, paying no mind. Incredible.
Most accurate part of that dream, for sure.
Incredible. And
honestly, not unlike what it would be like if we went hiking with us.
Yeah.
Which, if you come to our Portland, Oregon live show on March 23rd at jointhepartypod.com/live, it's possible we'll have gone hiking earlier that day.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Brandon and I are going to be trading cards on the Pokemon trading card game app the whole time.
We could trade on a mountain.
While we eat a great deal of Russian food.
I'm so excited.
We have plans for lunch,
I'm going
people.
to eat so much herring before the live show.
It's going to be sick as hell.
Gross.
Okay. A Cosmodot wants to know, how can we convince you all to play a one-shot derby, every 6 to 8 months or so? The creations from both derbies are just so unbelievably good. And Dominic Wiki, in a related question, wants to know, is it possible, if maybe the votes are too close, to do 2 of these one-shots? It's too close to call.
I mean, maybe if we get a certain amount of patrons.
I was going to
new
say,
patrons
what if we
signed up?
made a new patron goal?
So here's the thing, folks. If we add 50 new paid patrons, I think we can play a second one-shot derby from this round, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And if we add 100 new paid patrons from the number we have today, Eric, I think let's run another one-shot derby on the Patreon, patrons only.
Sounds great. I love it.
Wow.
Do we like it?
Yeah.
I
So
like
that's
it.
why it's
I'm
important
into
you
it.
vote. Your ranked choice voting is very important. There's all this math that goes into what your first place vote and your second place vote and your third place vote are for. So it's really important to try to order them as best as possible. I know they're super close, but 1 and 2 are both incredibly valuable.
Exactly. Ranked choice voting means that it's not your first choice that counts. It's your first choice and your second choice and your third choice.
Like there's a
Just
parliament.
like the New York City mayor.
Like a parliament of games. And also, if we don't run them, then I'll just put them back in. I like them. I'll just put them back in the pot.
Back in the box, shake it up.
Yeah, if
see what we
Fiasco
pull out.
doesn't go again, we're just gonna do another Fiasco set. I'll just keep doing Fiasco.
At some point, we're going to have to do Oops All Fiasco.
Ooh, different playbooks. Yeah, that'd be
Honestly,
fun.
that's not a bad idea.
All right, folks. It has been an incredible 5 weeks here at the One Shot Derby. I feel, I feel loose, frankly. I feel ready. I'm warmed up. I'm ready to see what happens in Campaign 4. Do we now want to share one emoji that will give folks a hint or clue as to what is happening next week when Campaign 4 begins? I think we should each choose one that represents our character, and then Eric should choose one that represents the campaign.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, I love that.
Mine is the evil eye.
Mine is a lightning bolt.
Mine is the lungs.
Ooh,
The lungs emoji.
an
Oof.
underused one.
Did I have to look it up? Yes, I did.
And mine is the Children's Crossing yield sign.
Is that actually
That is a real one. That's a real one.
Wow. That's crazy.
Oh, my palms are sweaty just thinking about Campaign 4. I cannot wait. So remember, folks, get your votes in for the one-shot derby at jointhepartypod.com/vote. Voting is open until just before midnight Eastern on Friday, March 21st. Then you have about 2 days to get to Portland, Oregon for our live show on Sunday, March 23rd. That's jointhepartypod.com/live. And of course, on Tuesday, March 25th, Campaign 4 begins,
Oh my
baby.
God. I cannot believe that. It's great.
Yeah, your votes actually count 10 times if you come to the Portland live show and then tell us what your ranked vote
Here-
is.
That's fair. If you tell us what you voted for, we'll juice you.
I think everyone at the Portland live show should come dressed up as what they think that Campaign 4 is going to be.
Oh, that's so
Damn.
good.
Brandon, you have so many TikTok ideas because this is like what someone who's 32 who lives in Seattle who wants to throw a themed party. That's what their themed party would be that they film.
Mm-hmm.
Extraordinary. I can't wait. Y'all, I love doing this podcast. I can't believe this is our job. I cannot wait for Campaign 4.
Same.
Yeah.
All right, say goodbye, players.
Bye, players.
Bye.
Bye, players.
May your rolls trend ever upward. Both me and Eric are peaking, so I'm going to turn the gain down slightly.
Cool.
We're peaking because we're having so much fun
Yeah.
on the podcast.
You did a big laugh. That's why you peaked.
I know. It's like those are the laugh lines I want in my DAW.
There you go.
The laugh lines in my jaw.
Imagine your DAW started getting wrinkles from your wavelengths.
That'd be pretty good.
Julia,
That'd be
that
cool.
sounds like a groundbreaking sci-fi book from the 80s that Elon Musk referred to for some reason.
Don't say that about me.
I know, that's how good your reference was. He's so obsessed with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and does not understand anything that what that book is about.
Mhm.
I'm surprised you can read. So
Yeah.